Nobody from a national perspective believes in the Eagles because of the coach and the quarterback. They are ignoring everything else. They are ignoring a top 10 offensive line, if healthy, which is a big caveat, big if. We put a lot of ifs on this team. They are ignoring a top 10 defensive line. Bottom line, they're not even looking at it. They can't get past the coach and the quarterback. Bottom line, every single one of these lists.
Our phenomenal producer, Xander, and I miss you guys here on Birds 365. After a lengthy weekend, we're back to talk Eagles football with you. I'm Jody McDonald. He is my partner, John McMullen. I hope your weekend was good, Mr. McMullen.
It was great. Low downtime, but, Eagles 365 never stops on the JAKIB media page, so everybody could check out our interviews there. But, it was nice to decompress. I know you don't get that opportunity because I saw 75, I believe the number was, shifts for Jody McDonald over a holiday weekend.
It just felt like that. It wasn't quite that many, but it was damn close to it. And yes, I can go to the YouTube page and go back and watch what pearls of wisdom we dropped on the people last week. But it's just not the same as talking to you live, buddy. I got to tell you that. It's good on tape, but it's just that much better live. It's good to see your smiling face this morning.
It's good to see you, Jody. And this is sort of the turning point as you get past 4th of July weekend. And it turned out to be, and now you can see training camp on July 27th. Everything starts gearing up. Everybody's saying, oh, we got to get back to it. We got to get back to it. It's coming. It's right around the corner.
We have exactly 3 weeks from today. The countdown is on, as John correctly notes. So, yes, Eagles football live will be back before we know it. All right, you see that I put on a specific hat today. I did so for 2 reasons. Number one, I knew that you'd like it, a Stone Cold Steve Austin hat. This is an oldie but goodie. Damn, I must have this hat 20 years, somewhere there about. I don't even remember.
It's been so long. If you think Steve's last match was at Safeco Field,
really,
against The Rock, WrestleMania. I got to think about the number, but that had to be early 2000s. So time flies, man. Time flies.
It truly does. But I saw this hat today, and I said I got to get it on because John will get a kick out of it. But also, there's a couple people, and we are in that woeful downtime during the National Football League when there are no OTAs. They're mandatory or non-mandatory. It doesn't matter. We are X amount of days, in this case 21, away from the opening of camp. And there's just not any moves going on. There's no new news. There's no real roster shakeup. You might see a signing. We have not seen any signings we know what we've been waiting here on the Birds. When are they going to get another cornerback? And when are they going to do something with Zach Ertz, be it trade and or release? Yes, none of those things have happened in the last several weeks. No. So we're waiting with bated breath for new information and the like. So people need to create opinion, create content and the like. And a couple of outlets have attempted to do that. And I'm sorry, I'm going to woefully disagree with several of them, as a matter of fact. Are you a big fan of Ben Lindsay?
I don't know, Ben, but you were filling me in a little bit before the show. The name did not ring a bell, but I always say I want to start this. I know you want to rip some people, Jody, and I'm with you. But I always say to Eagles fans who get upset about this kind of stuff, it's one person's opinion. Ultimately, it's one person's opinion. Chris Sims, we talked about the top 40 last week before we went. We had our little break. Well, you didn't have a break, but I had a little bit of a break. He didn't have Jalen Hurts in the top 40. It's one person. It doesn't matter, but I hear why people get emotional about it.
Well understood, and Ben Lindsay is certainly welcome to his opinion.
Yeah.
And I'm welcome to my opinion to say his opinion is out of friggin' left field, okay? It's opinions on both sides of it.
Now, I think it was too low. I believe he was 29th, correct? He had the Eagles as the 29th.
He ranked the rosters, just the talent presently on the rosters of all the teams in the National Football League, and had the Eagles at 29th. I'll tell you what, although I think that is low, certainly think that's low. You and I have them winning 8 games this upcoming season. So if they play to that, they're not going to be the 2019. They're not going to draft number 4 in the upcoming draft if they finish with 8 wins this year. So yes, you and I think, and we do believe they're going to add another corner at some point. So that is going to change. Anytime you have any significant additions to your roster or subtractions, you can move up and down. Any list, anytime you do it, is fluid. And you can change it the next day if you wanted to re-rank and rearrange. So I think he's a little low at the Eagles at 29. But that's not my biggest issue. He ranked all the teams, which means he ranked the other teams in the division. He had the Giants at number 19. All right, if you think it's going to be the NFC least again, okay, fine. I get it. Worst division in football last year. Could very well be the worst division in football again this year. You got the Eagles at 29. Giants up at number 19. Methinks that could be just a tad high for them. And then the Washington football team and the Dallas Cowboys, both in the top 12 in the National Football League. So Eagles 29, Giants 19, Washington and Dallas both in the top 12. I know they're the Washington football team, which is WFT. I say WTF. Come on. The Redskins and the Giants both in the top 12. The Redskins and the Cowboys. I don't see it. I don't buy it. How the hell does he come up with this?
What do we say, Jody? What have I said about all these lists? Every single one of them. They come down to the coach and the quarterback. And I hear you. That's not what he's grading, but he doesn't know it, but that's what he's grading. That's what he's grading with the Eagles. I'm talking about the Eagles specifically. Nobody from a national perspective believes in the Eagles because of the coach and the quarterback. They are ignoring everything else. They are ignoring a top 10 offensive line, if healthy, which is a big caveat, big if. We put a lot of ifs on this team. They are ignoring a top 10 defensive line. Bottom line, they're not even looking at it. They can't get past the coach and the quarterback. Bottom line, every single one of these lists. Now, when you talk about the Cowboys, look, we know America's team, you know, at some point this week, I want to talk about Hard Knocks. Actually, we'll talk about it. We have 2 great guests we'll let you in on in a second. We know the Cowboys. They're always a little bit, people think they're a little bit better than they really are. But you look offensively, they have Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott, Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, CeeDee Lamb, on and on and on. It is pretty impressive. Defensive side of the ball, you're probably not looking at it. Washington, that's a hot team. You know, some people have said, you know, they could make a strong run. If somehow they got in the Aaron Rodgers sweepstakes, they might be a favorite for the Super Bowl because they have a top 5 defense with that defensive line. But, you know, it's hard to imagine them going very far with Ryan Fitzpatrick as the quarterback. So all of these things factor into it. But when it comes to the Eagles, Jody, nobody can get past the coach and the quarterback, and nobody even understands they can't get past the coach and the quarterback.
Well, I understand where you're coming from. Now, maybe others don't understand, but I do. And I think you're right on the fact that you've got a first-year head coach in Nick Sirianni and a first-time ever starting quarterback who looked both very good and very shaky at times last year. I get it. That's Eagles. That's why I said Eagles at 29, although I would have them a little higher. I'm not as put off by that because, as you so well explain it, there are issues here that some people might not be willing to give them the benefit of the doubt on. Okay, fine. If that is applicable, if coach and quarterback are going to drive the day on all of these lists, Daniel Jones, what is it about Daniel? What is Daniel Jones done to go, I got to have him highly rated. And they have a second-year coach who, oh, by the way, just my opinion, kind of impressed me last year. I like what Joe Judge did, and I think he's going to be a good coach, but he's a second-year coach who went 6-10 in his first year. How are they meriting 10 slots higher than the Eagles when they have an absolute question at quarterback, as far as I'm concerned, and only a slight questionable coach 1 year into his career?
Well, Jody, I agree with you, and I'm thinking about this, and I haven't done it because I think these, how do you grade rosters? I think it's kind of a silly premise. I think it's that off-season premise. But while I say that, if I'm just going off the top of my head, I'd probably have the Eagles in the 23-24 range, and I probably have the Giants in the 23-24 range. I'd have them right around the same spot. Depending on, and again, that's just off the top of my head. But when I look at other people, look, I know you're not from doing this show with you every day. I know you're not a Daniel Jones fan. Now, people around the league, they're going to default to Daniel Jones above Jalen Hurts. They're just going to do it. Same thing with the coach. When we talk this time next year, it's not going to be the same with Nick Sirianni. Might be worse, probably will be better. He'll be like Joe Judge. You'll say, oh, he was okay. He was an embarrassment. This time last year, people were saying, who the hell was Joe Judge? It was the similar type sentiment, probably not quite as bad because you have the added kind of, what do you want to call it? Quirky goofiness of Nick Sirianni. People don't believe in the guy. I think he's going to be fine ultimately. But I'm telling you from a national perspective, I've talked to enough guys. You've talked to enough guys with me on this show. Nobody believes in this guy. Nobody around this league outside of Philadelphia believes in this guy. Nobody. It's unbelievable. It's dumb. Well, to be honest.
And I understand that the two other coaches in this division, not named Sirianni or Judge, both have much more experience than either the Giant head coach and certainly much more experience than the Eagles head coach. But they also went below 500 last year. The Washington football team needed the aid of the unstoppable Nate Sudfeld in week 16 to be able to capture the division. Wow, man, you got to get ready for them this upcoming season. How do you figure? We all know, talk about what it's all speculation and prognostication. We know what Ryan Fitzpatrick is. He's going to be great a handful of weeks during the year, and he's going to be friggin' god-awful a handful of weeks during the year. All of a sudden, he's going to become Mr. Consistent at this stage of his career? I don't think so. He'll have great weeks. He'll have hideously bad weeks. He is what he is. He's Fitzpatrick. He's Fitzmagic. He's Fitztragic. He's all those things. That's going to swing the pendulum that Washington is somehow a top 12 roster in this league? I don't think so.
I don't have a problem. But I think Washington has a really good roster. I really do. I think they're a good young team, except for the quarterback position. And I think that holds them down.
Didn't someone just tell me it's all about the quarterback and the coach with these things? You just finished telling me that, and their quarterback is a big friggin' question mark.
No, I'm just trying to speculate on other people's thought process. I'm saying if you look at the roster, if you actually look at the roster, and I don't believe he's doing that with the Eagles, maybe he is doing it with Washington. Maybe he's looking at Chase Young and Jonathan Allen and Daron Payne and Montez Sweat and Terry McLaurin and Logan Thomas, and they brought in Curtis Samuel, and Antonio Gibson's going to be a good player in this league. That is a good young roster, Jody. I have no problem with Washington at 12. Their issue that will keep them down, and I'm going to pick Washington to win this division. But what's going to keep them down is the quarterback and what you just said about Ryan Fitzpatrick. And that turns probably 8-8. It's not 8-8, 9-8, 10-7. That could be a 13, 14 win team if they could pull off the miracle and get Aaron Rodgers. That could be a really, really good football team, similar to Denver in the AFC from that perspective. Good young talent. Now, Dallas, that team, look, if you look at the offensive side of the football, it's a top-tier roster. If you look at the defensive side, it's not. So I don't know what they're looking at there.
Right, either side of the ball, you can put a high grade on the offense, but then you got to put a low grade on the defense. With Washington, you put a high grade on their defense. Understood that they were one of the better defenses and have the right to improve with a guy like Chase Young in his second year. I just saw something on the NFL Network, them quoting that Chase Young's mom asked him, "Where the hell were the sacks last year?" He had 7.5. It wasn't like he got none, but he said, "Mom, it's a little harder in the National Football League. I'll up my sack total this year."
Which, and by the way, Chase Young, as good as he is, and he's going to be a star. And I said, Montez Sweat is better than Chase Young. Now, I don't know if he's getting vaccinated. I don't know if he's going to be out there, but he's better. That's how good Washington is up front.
And that's why Ryan Kerrigan is going to be rushing the passer for the Eagles, because they said, "Well, Ryan, your numbers and your snaps are going to get cut even more because we want both Young and Sweat out there that many more plays this upcoming season." Eagles swooped in and got themselves a pretty good player on the cheap, who I think is going to help them this year. But that's beside the point. I'm sorry. I just think he overranked the other teams in the league. You want to put the Eagles 29th instead of 25th? Or I might have them where you might have them, all right, 4 slots. You're a little put off by it, but I'm not going to scream bloody murder about where he ranked the Eagles. I'll just say I disagree. Oh, I'm going to scream bloody murder that he's got both the Cowboys and the Washington football team in the top 12. I don't buy it. I don't think anybody in this division is in the top 12. They surely weren't last year, and I don't know why they would be this year. Yes, as predictable as Ryan Fitzpatrick is, he's predictably unpredictable is what he is. I don't know what Dak Prescott's going to be. I do this show every day called Birds 365 with a very astute football insider named John McMullen, who told me that one of the big reasons why Carson Wentz went backwards this past year is the toll of all the injuries. With the leg injury that he suffered, he's not the same quarterback that he was in 2017. And I buy into that. I believe that. How do we know what Dak Prescott's going to be this year? He's coming back from a major below-the-waist injury that could have an effect on his ability to be the quarterback he once was. And, oh, by the way, he got paid, so he's going to be of a big part of that Cowboy cap. And if he's only a partial Dak Prescott going forward, how the hell are the Cowboys going to have a top 12 roster?
Yeah, with the Cowboys, I hear what you're saying about Dak Prescott. And you do have to wait and see when it comes to the injury. No question about it. So it was, but, I always talk about one of the reasons I believe that about Carson Wentz, because I saw it with RG3, and I have the same concerns with Joe Burrow this year because he had a similar injury. Tore his ACL, his LCL, and there was more damage in Joe Burrow. So I'm very concerned about Joe Burrow because of the type of injury. Dak was a dislocated ankle. Now, big time injury, but in theory, I don't think you have as many problems fixing that injury. Now, there's going to be all the mental hurdles, all that kind of stuff, and it is probably going to take a while for him to get back. But I think from a physical perspective, eventually he's going to be back to 100% or close to 100% if you ever get close, back to where you were. I don't think it's as serious an injury as what guys like RG3 and Carson and Joe Burrow went through. So just the type of injury, and you look at it in the past, a dislocated ankle, it heals and guys can come back. But you're right. I mean, you can't assume he's going to be the guy who threw, people forget, Jody. I think it was ridiculous. It was 450, maybe 472, and then over 500. That's what Dak Prescott was throwing for his final 3 games before he got hurt because of those receivers.
Right.
So, I mean, they do have some talent, significant talent on the offensive side of the football, offensive line as well. Remember, they went through a similar situation as the Eagles, losing Tyron Smith and La'el Collins and Zach Martin. All those guys are back. So we're saying the same thing about the Cowboys. If those guys are back, it's pretty damn good, Jody.
Understood. And you're right. Dak had video game offensive numbers before he went down last year. But, oh, by the way, The Cowboys were 1-3 in the 4 games.
They weren't playing that well. Yeah.
Their defense was god awful. They were well behind in games. I remember that Atlanta game. What were they down? 2+ touchdowns, and they rallied, which was kind of a choke on the Falcons' part as well. But they had to. They had to throw the ball that much because they were that far behind in the games because their defense was that bad. And I don't know how much they've actually upgraded their defense this year. All right, we're going to put this stuff aside for a couple minutes because as John teased you with, we've got 2 very good guests today. 2 former NFL executives. First up will be our buddy Andrew Brandt, his business sports podcast, former executive in the National Football League, writer for Sports Illustrated. He's going to join us now. And a little bit later, Randy Mueller, ex-general manager in the league as well, will hop aboard. So we've got 2 very good guests coming your way. Andrew Brandt joins us next here on Birds 365.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.